You're Glenn Close, obviously.
And you're Pete Davidson.
Yes, unfortunately for you, yes.
No. What I'm really interested in is that, from your background, that here you are. I mean, and me too. I mean, I came from Connecticut,
I saw
wonderful.
that. You're so elegant and like wonderful. I always thought that you were British. And then I watched a bunch of interviews and looked up and I was like, "Oh my goodness, she's from like an hour and a half away."
Yeah, I grew up a little tomboy in the countryside in Connecticut and lived in my imagination, and that's done me in good stead. But here we are. The thing that I also, and maybe we're going to veer all over the place, but I find stand-up comedy one of the most terrifying propositions I could think of. So I want to ask you about that courage. Where do you think it's courageous, and where it comes from? Because I find it astounding how you create material out of your own life, and you have the courage to get up there and talk about it.
Well, first, I think we would all love to see Glenn Close do stand up. That would be incredible. I think it is. There's obviously tons of more courageous jobs, but I do think it is kind of courageous to get on stage in front of people because it is terrifying. The reason why I think I was able to do it is because like a thing happened to me when I was really young. Like we lost my dad, so I was just like. When I was 16, I always wanted to try it because it was like what got me by Eddie Murphy and Chappelle and Bill Burr and people like Mulaney. And it was just such a great escape. And my friends were like, "You should do it." And I was like, they were like, "What's the worst thing that could happen?" And I was like, "Oh, you're right. The worst thing that could happen pretty much already happened."
It's always someone else's fault. Some point, you're going to have to take responsibility, or someone else is going to have to step in. Who? Huh? Who?
You probably get offered a lot of scripts. What made you want to choose Hillbilly Elegy out of all the scripts?
I had read the book. I think it came out in 2016, and we're being hit by everything we've been hit by for the last 4 years.
Right.
And I just thought it was important to understand other cultures and other points of view in this country. And so I read the book. And then somehow, I guess a couple of years later, I heard by the grapevine that Ron had gotten the rights and was developing the script. And I've always been pretty proactive about stuff like that. So I wrote him a note and I said, "Ron, if you're ever thinking, when you get to casting, if you can think of me," and thinking, "Oh, what a long shot," because who would ever think that? But he came back to me and he offered me the part. And then our great collaboration began.
That's awesome.
And when I started out, and I thought, because I was really bad at auditioning. I would really be worse at it now because you're supposed to memorize the lines and put yourself on video. I mean, I wouldn't even have a career if I'd had to do that back then.
Ron Howard, was he special and fun on set?
Ron is one of the best directors I will ever work with. This is the second time I've worked with him. And what I love about him is he preps. And what it does for us as the actors is he has all the time in the world when it comes to actually shooting, but he gives you, especially for this, and thanks to Netflix for giving us the money to have the time to meet the members of the family who made themselves incredibly available. How terrifying to have a movie of your family made. And then we went to Middletown, Ohio before we started shooting. So it was a matter of multiple weeks later that we ended up shooting there, but it's so helpful. And he doesn't have any preconceived ideas, but in this day and age, you don't have much time. I mean, time is money, right? In movies.
That was great.
What do you think about, because it was so strong in Hillbilly Elegy, what do you think about its message about addiction? Just as someone who's been around it and sees a lot, I was just curious as to your views on it, because it's so strong and I think beautifully portrayed.
Yeah, I think it was a very, very honest view of addiction and the terrible difficulty of getting out of that cycle of
Right.
addiction. And then you get better, and then you feel better, and then you start doing what you did again, and then you fall off and go down the hole again. My sister was a substance abuser, and because we weren't close at the time, I really didn't know what she was going through. She was really good at hiding it when we got together as a family. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder when she was 50. And she's written an
Oh, wow.
incredible book about it called Resilience. But the damage to her and to other people along the way, because she hadn't been diagnosed, was, you look back, you can't really look back because the present is the most important thing.
Right.
But you can't help but think, oh my God, if only she had been diagnosed sooner, it would have made such a big difference in her life. I have such deep love and respect for her because it's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard. First of all, to deal with an addiction is really hard. And you need all the support you can get from whoever can give it to you. I mean, sure, you know that.
Oh, yeah.
I think Hillbilly Elegy is a very honest portrayal of what that can do to a family. It's hinted at, but Mama and Papa's relationship was very volatile. He was a
Right.
drinker. He was a womanizer. He'd come home, blind drunk, and she actually did light him on fire one time.
Yeah, I
Uh,
saw that. I was like, oh my goodness.
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
that kind of violence and that kind of abuse, substance abuse and physical abuse is passed down to the next generation
Yeah.
unless it's taken care of. I mean, a lot of it is PTSD, and if you don't take care of PTSD, it just gets worse and worse and worse, and it will keep affecting you terribly and affect all the people around you.
No, this ain't right, honey, but she's your mother. And maybe if we help her this one last time, she'll finally learn her lesson and keep her job.
But why can't we let her clean her own mess up for once?
'Cause family's the only thing that means a goddamn. You'll learn that.
From your point of view, what did you think of how that story was treated in Hillbilly?
I thought it was like spot on just from people that I know. And first of all, I'm glad that your sister got a diagnosis, because I got diagnosed with BPD a few years ago, and I was always just so confused all the time and just like
Mm.
thought something was wrong and didn't know how to deal with it. And then like when somebody finally tells you that the weight of the world just feels lifted off your shoulders, you just feel so much better. So I hope she feels that way as well. Um, I I think no, I thought it was really spot on. Just like the way it affects other people is what you really don't think about, I think, when you're starving for an addiction, because it's just that is the most important thing at the time, is just, kind of trying to get by and get your fix.
You gotta help me do more cooking and all that healthy stuff, okay? It's gonna be different now.
I thought it was like beautifully done, but also just so emotional, and it was just really an honest depiction.
Let's talk about King of Staten Island and the fact that you co-wrote it.
Why do we have to clean this thing anyway? It's just gonna get fire on it. You think the people that are burning alive give a f if the truck is shiny? Just saying. I don't even know why you gotta clean the truck. When you're trying to show up all sexy to a fire?
I like them.
First of all, the story is so wonderful and your character is so wonderful in it. Are the other characters that are in The King of Staten Island people that were actually in your childhood or in your growing up there?
And my crew,
Yeah, and your crew.
the friends that I had in the movie were pretty much spot on with the ones I had in real life. The firemen that all my dad's friends, actually, one of the actors was one of my dad's real friends, and he always wanted to be an actor, so it was really cool to have him on set. And also, like, if you know Staten Island, there was this scene where we're all in a basement and some guy just comes to the window asking for like pills. It's very Staten Island. That's pretty much how it rolls down here. We do not get a great rap.
You must have a great mom.
I'm a very, very lucky boy. My mom,
Yeah.
single mom, raised me and my sister by herself, had 3 jobs, still takes care of us. I'm a very, very lucky boy for sure.
She's the kind of person I'd love to sit down and have, a cup of coffee with someday. She must be a very cool person. And what did she think of, or what does she think of King of Staten Island?
She was first off very emotional and proud that I got to do a job. She was just like very thrilled and was just like, I'm very happy that you get to do something you're passionate about. And then we were doing casting and she started to get interested in it. She was just like, well, who's gonna play me? And we told her Marissa was, and she was just like, oh, okay. And then she would brag to everybody that Marissa Tomei is playing me. But when she saw the movie, she cried the whole time, and it was good tears. She told me, and she really enjoyed it. What was cool is my sister and my mom are also in it. So they have like little cameos, so that they were pretty excited about it.
How many years have you been on SNL? I've also watched a lot of the weekend updates, and I didn't know, I'm like the last person in the universe I didn't know that Colin Jost came from Staten Island. And it's hilarious the way the two of you talk, especially that bit where you were saying his picture in the paper looked like this and your picture looked like this. Yeah. So, how long have you been on SNL?
This is my 7th year. I started when I was 20. Colin was there for like, I think 7 or 8 years as a writer, but we both got made cast the same year. And yes, Staten Island feels a lot differently about Colin than they do me. They love him very much, and in any newspaper, they always use a very flattering photo of him. And in any newspaper with me, it's usually me eating something or like about to sneeze, or they're like, look at this big idiot. So I'm very jealous of his reputation here on the island.
I love the picture of you in that lavender hat.
Oh no. Oh man, because I've never like, you remember the first time you ever got like recognized? Like I never expected anybody to ever care or take a photo or anything. So like I always used to dress kind of funny because I just thought it was weird, like wearing a purple bucket hat. But then you just see it like lives on the internet forever now, and you're just like, oh my God, for the rest of my life. Like if I have kids one day, they're gonna see how stupid I was.
The great things when you come zooming on to a weekend update, you've written that, right? Because it seems so incredibly spontaneous.
Yeah, I write all those with my writing partner Dave, who wrote The King of Staten Island with me, and we usually just sit in a room and we try to make as much fun of me as possible, and then just like put jokes around it. But that's my favorite thing to do, because it's just you don't have to put on all that makeup and stuff. And sometimes I love it, but the worst thing is like sometimes you're only in like one thing, and you'll be dressed up like a clock, or like I had to dress up as like Count Chocula, which is a cereal mascot. and you're just stuck in this outfit for like 4 hours in your dressing room, just looking at yourself in the mirror, and you're like, what am I doing? Why am I dressed like Count Chocula? It's so crazy. Is this your first movie for Netflix?
Yes, think so. Yeah.
Were you super pumped about that? Do you have an opinion between a movie coming out either on Netflix or in theaters? Is there one that you'd rather, or did you
I,
enjoy the streaming world?
yeah, I think it's interesting how many options we now have that we didn't have before. I mean, it's crazy to think that when I started in 1974, it was theater, TV, or movies, right? There was no
Right,
cable, nothing. And TV was definitely the poor cousin. I think you can almost choose, if you have the luxury of choosing, how best to tell your story. Do you want
right,
to have a mini series? Do you want to do a longer series? Do you want to do a movie? And you can choose it for how you want it to impact people. I think the streaming thing is great because, I mean, during COVID, I have looked at whole series. I never would have done that before. I really miss, and I think everybody misses, going to a theater and getting your popcorn and your milk duds and sitting down and seeing a movie in a community of people, and you all kind of
yeah,
react to it together. And that's an important thing for humans. It is lucky to have the audience that Netflix gives us. Millions
yeah.
more people will see our stories than would have if it had been in theaters. And I'm really, really grateful for that.
But I have to talk about this is one of my two favorite movies growing up, and still it's very legendary. 101 and 102 Dalmatians. There's so many questions, but like, what made you want to do that role? That's such an iconic Cruella. It was so amazing.
I think it's because when I was little, I was really enamored with fairy tales, and even the darkest, weirdest ones. I love fairy tales, and I also grew up on, because I'm so old, on things like Bambi and Snow White. And they just were, again, it was about basically a bad, the children go to the dark place and then they're rescued, right? And
Right,
I noticed that as the years went on, that you have to remove the mother, basically, to have anything happen to the children. You can have a clueless father, you can have a distant father, you can have, like Bambi, the father was distant. Little Mermaid, the dad is clueless. But
right,
it has to be something that will put the kids in danger. And a lot of times it's a wicked witch or a wicked stepmother. The witches are really important, and they're what everyone's rescued from. So Cruella was a classic witch. And I just was thrilled because of my childhood to be able to do a witch for Disney. And
yeah,
I learned very fast that the meaner and the most horrible thing she said, the funnier it was. You have to be scary funny, but you've got to be scary. And I
yeah. You were
actually,
scary, hysterical.
yeah, but I asked to get some of the original dialogue from the original animated feature, because she said chloroform them, drown them, and they, I mean, it's really bad stuff. But the fact that she's defeated in the end is what it's all about, right? That
Yeah.
evil, bad things can be defeated and life can go on. And so I've
It's
gone.
such a iconic role and look. I was curious, like, because when we did, I've only done one thing, but if you I got to keep some of the wardrobe. Did you take any of Cruella's wardrobe because it was so fabulous?
That's a great story, because I got in my contract in the very beginning of 101 that I got to keep all my costumes, the costumes that I spent hours in the fitting room and that I wore in the movie. Then when they found out how expensive they were. They they were unhappy that it was in my contract, and they wanted to make a another copy, another set for me. I said no.
No.
So I have all the Cruella costumes from both movies, and I have all the Sunset Boulevard costumes. In fact, I have a huge costume collection that's now at Indiana University. And it thrills me because I consider costumers as important a collaboration as a director, frankly, especially with movies when you don't have a lot of rehearsal time, but you have a lot of time in the fitting room, and you literally can see the character form, on your body. It's
Right.
very, very important. And so I'm really proud that all those costumes are going to be saved.
One of my other favorites, and one of my favorite performances of yours is Fatal Attraction, which if I was Michael Douglas, I would have left my wife. When you were making that movie, did you know how big and influential it was going to be, like at the time?
No, I don't think we did. I think it was a thrilling experience, and you always feel, maybe rightly or wrongly, that if you feel like you're on your game and everyone around you is on your game, that it'll probably be something worthwhile. Because I was playing a woman who had been incested at a very early age, and it had
Right.
made her suicidal, basically. And none of that backstory, and this is from research I did with psychiatrists, because of that behavior. I want to know what made people behave like that. And they're little tiny hints, like when she spies with the family, when the little kid's getting a rabbit and then goes and throws up in the bushes. Why
Yeah.
would you do that? Unless she was that age when she had, been violated and it made her ill. I mean, so I wasn't playing an evil person. I was playing a person in distress who had no help, so
Right.
and I loved her. And when they came back and we had to change the ending and made her into basically a psychopath with a knife in her hand, it was profoundly difficult for me. But I learned a very important lesson, is that how important catharsis is for an audience. They had been so deeply upset by her that the
Right.
only way they could feel that the world would come back to any semblance of order was if she was totally wiped away, even though in the original ending she killed herself. It wasn't enough of a punishment.
Now you're, one of our greatest actresses of all time. You've been nominated for 7 Oscars, which is insane and ridiculous. What can we do to get you an Oscar? We have to get the internet to help, because you deserve 7. So.
Is it better to be wheeled out in a wheelchair and get the Life Achievement Award, when you don't have to make a speech? I don't know. I can't. It's beyond me. First of all, you're fulfilled by your work, and that's the process, to me, is what feeds my soul. But it really is nice when other people like it,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know what to. I have no idea. I don't know. It might be cool to never get one. I wouldn't mind being wheeled out when I'm old and drooling and have a great wig to cover my bald head.
No.
I want to ask you about the things you have coming up. I noticed that you're doing a reading.
Oh, It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me about that.
No, I randomly got an email from Ed Asner, and he was just like, "We're doing this table read for charity. Would you? It's a Wonderful Life. Would you want to play George Bailey?" And I immediately was like, "Yes! Oh my God, yes, please!" Because it's one of my favorite movies, and it was actually my dad's favorite movie, like for real. and I got I have a It's a Wonderful Life tattoo. I have the Gower Pharmacy emblem on my arm. So I was just super excited the second it was announced. Everybody trashed me. It was so crazy.
Oh,
Everybody was very, 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 very upset that I'm doing a table read of a classic movie. So I thought it was really funny, and I thought like it made me think like my dad was also laughing. Like it was just like, you get to do something you're really excited about, and someone nabs you. That's why I'm not on the internet. But I saw that you're on Instagram, and I'm so terrified of Instagram. And I was just
yeah.
curious, like how you have the courage to be on it, and how and what you use it for, and what are your favorite things on it.
I just started it for fun. I thought the only way I'd do it is if it was really me doing it, and not, and I still don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do all the little fancy things and pictures and moving things. I don't know how much longer I'll stay on it, to be honest, because it does put you in a weird place. It makes you competitive in a way that I think is really not good.
No, your Instagram is really, really fun. I When I had it, I like you said, there's a lot of positivity, but there's like a 20, maybe for me it was like 35, but there's usually like 15 to 20% of like negativity, and I only would see those comments. Like anything like anything positive, I'm just like no, no, and then you see like something very specific about yourself, and you're like, oh, and then you just feel bad for a week. So
You
I had
do.
a,
You
I had,
do.
yeah,
It's
like
really,
it
it's really
it kills
destructive.
you.
It
Yeah.
does. It kills.
Somebody told me one of my eyes was smaller than the other one, and since then, yeah, that's all I can see about myself is I have a
But let me
wonky
tell
eye.
you, one of my eyes is smaller than my other one, because unless you're a model that has a perfectly balanced face, your face is all crazy. Everybody has an eye that's smaller than the other.
Oh, well, thank you. That made me feel a lot better.
I was nervous when I woke up because you just seem so cool and so on a level I will never be on. It's just, you have so much to say, and you have such a fabulous, unique, and I mean that in the best possible sense, outlook on the world. We need you and we love you.
I hope I wasn't too nervous and all over the place, and I just, this has been the highlight of my career in life. So.